Hello, BookTube. I'm back with day 15 of 28 days of science fiction. And now we begin properly the fiction section, which are more or less two bookcases, but there's some horror type stuff in there right at the end. And the first shelf here, shelf 15, is Isaac Asimov. There's a couple things missing still I'm looking for, but it's a full shelf, so we'll deal with it now. And the first is the early Asimov, and it's his first stories that were published. This is a book club edition. I would love to get a proper trade edition, but they're not that cheap. Let's just put it that way. It's Doubleday and Company, published in 1972, and it's called The Early Asimov, or 11 Years of Trying. And it has 27 stories in here. And he prefaces it, as he does with almost every collection of short stories that he has, with biographical material, other material like editorial material, editors that said, or how much you got paid for it at times. He will have that in there. So it's all his collections, if you're interested in Isaac Asimov, is very interesting. So that's the early Asimov. Now I've got, this is volume 1 of the complete stories. It's not complete because they only did 2 volumes, but this is a paperback version of it. This was published, this is Broadway Books, from do we give me a date here? 1990. But it was by Doubleday. This is a reprint from Doubleday, and the volume contains complete contents of previously published collections: Earth is Room Enough, 9 Tomorrows, Nightfall, and Other Stories. And like I say, it was I'm not sure how many volumes it was meant to be, because he wrote about 330 some short stories, I think, give or take, science fiction, but that might not include his mystery stories and other stories he did, and maybe fantasy as well. But I know at least 330 or so science fiction ones at the very least. So that's volume 1, and I think the original hardcover edition was a book club edition, and I do have volume 2 in book club edition. It had somebody's book plate in it. It's a very fantasy style book plate. Let's see here. This was published. It's a foundation book, Doubleday, 1992, and it doesn't tell me if it's a I think it's more than just a collection of previous published stories. And unlike what I said, his other ones, he does not preface each story with a little outline. There's a introduction in each of the volumes that was written by Asimov, but they never continued this. And the other thing that's interesting is that cool back cover photo or picture. In the UK, you can buy volume 1 and volume 2, but they've split up volume 1 into 2 volumes in the UK here for some reason. I don't know why. But yeah, that's a good collection. And an earlier collection is The Bicentennial Man and Other Stories by Isaac Asimov. This is a Book Club Associates edition from the UK here. And this was published in 1976 originally. Yeah, it's dedicated to Judy Lynn Del Rey, and the swath she is cutting in our field. Yeah. And as I say, each story is prefaced by a little or an aftermath of material, biographical, etc. material. Yeah, it's an ugly jacket, but it's quite good, and it does have Bicentennial Man, the Prime of Life, Feminine Intuition, a Water Clap, Thou Art Mindful of Him, Stranger in Paradise, The Life and Times of Multivac, The Winnowing, the Bicentennial Man, Marching In, Old Fashioned, the tercentenary incident and Birth of a Nation. So a number of sort of robot stories in there. And the other one I have here is By Jupiter and Other Stories. This is a book club edition. I was very disappointed with this. I had ordered this and I paid quite a bit of money for it because it said it was as new and it was a first edition. What comes is a book club edition that is in rough shape. And they just said, well, what do you expect? It's an old book. And I'm going, well, I expect you to have described it correctly and sent me the correct book. So it took a long while, but I finally got my money back for it. And this is published in 1975. Again, same deal with prefaces or aftermaths for each story. And it has 24 stories in here, and it's got some robot stories as well. A later one that was a reprint of some robot stories, as well as a few new stories, and I've only got one of them. This is Robot Visions. There was another one that was published as well by, well, this is Guild Publishing. In the UK here, it's like Priest, I think it was, but this was published in 1990, and it's unlike the paperback version of it. It's got some really nice illustrations and fabulous cover art as well. But yeah, it's got some nice illustrations throughout. And I was just seeing here, it's dedicated to Gardner Dozois and Stan Schmidt, colleagues and friends. Gardner Dozois was an editor, and he, I'm sure, he edited Isaac Asimov, the magazine, Isaac Asimov's science fiction magazine, I think it was called, and Stan Schmidt did Analog for a while. And what else is there? Oh yeah, this has robot stories in, some new ones, as I say, and also essays, just essays on robotics, basically, throughout it. It could go into the science fiction, because we'll see a few more essays that are science fiction related, but we saw 2 books under his nonfiction that are on science fiction. Now we get into the deeper matter here. We've got the robot collection, which includes the Complete Robot, and Caves of Steel and the Naked Sun. This is a book club. No, it's not a book club edition. Sorry, it's not a book club edition, but it's got strangely, it's not that well bound. I think they've got the binding too tight in this edition. This printing. It's Doubleday and Company, 1982. Is that right? Yeah, it looks like it. Well, the Complete Robot was put out in 1982. I don't actually have a date for this, but it's at least 1982. And then the Caves of Steel was 1953, serialized 1954, and then Naked Sun in 1957. So yeah, it's got all the what's in the Complete Robot, but it's not actually the Complete Robot, because we've got this here that has some new robot stories, as well as Robot Dreams, which I do want to get eventually. And then we've got Robots of Dawn, which continues on after the Naked Sun. But this was published in 1983, Doubleday and Company. This is actually a first edition of the book, which I don't think there are any other editions unless you get a book club edition. But yeah, this just continues on with Elijah Bailey um, um, on the planet. The Robots of Dawn, which is Aurora, I believe, if I remember right. But the other two stories are the Caves of Steel and Naked Sun is Elijah Bailey and Daniel Oliva. And they're mystery, they're crime and murder stories, and then we move on to Robots and Empire, which is post Elijah Bailey, but Daniel Oliva and Giscard are in here, and it's setting up for as a link between the robot stories and the Empire stories, which I don't have. There is a nice omnibus of the three. Well, I've got them in paperback, but there's a nice omnibus book club edition of the robot stories, which I'd like to get, but every time I see it, it's from the US, and some of the prices, when I've last looked several years ago, they were okay prices for the book. I was happy to pay that, but I wasn't happy to pay 60 or 70 or 80 pounds for shipping. That's always the problem. So then that was the sort of linking between the robot stories and the Empire stories, which were three trilogy there. And then we've got trying to remember now, is it Prelude the Foundation first? I think it is. And then this is Forward the Foundation. This one is a bit rough. It's got, for some reason, it's got a slice through the dust jacket, but it's a very, very fine sort of a razor blade slice, but I got it really cheap. It's a bit faded on the spine, the gold there, but this was published in 1993. So, and again, this was published after the original, obviously, Foundation story. So he was linking this stuff together, the Empire stories up through into the Foundation and so forth. And then I've got a couple editions here of the Foundation trilogy. I've got the book club edition, omnibus. Usually, a lot of times you see the pink version. I used to have the pink version, but when I went to buy a new version, I thought, well, I'm going to buy the black one. And it took me a little while to find it, but then all of a sudden a bunch popped up. So this was originally, they're fixed-up novels, basically. But Doubleday and Company, 1951, it's got the date of 1950, Foundation, based on published material originally copyrighted by Street and Smith Publications. The other volumes, let's see, 1952, Foundation and Empires, 1952. Let's see if I can find the title page for. Anyway, it's the 50s. They were published. Off the top of my head, I just can't remember the exact dates. But yeah, so that I kind of like that. And then I also have the gonna have to erase that, some dirt or something on the back of it. I've got the Everyman edition, Everyman's Library, and it's as an introduction by Michael Durda in it, which is a pretty good introduction. It's fairly long. And it's got a like the usual thing for Everyman editions, a chronology of sort of Asimov's life and sort of events that were going on at the time, historical and some literary. This was published by Everyman. I'm trying to find it here. 2010. Was published in 2010. So it's the usual Everyman edition. Then we've got this was, I think, the first first of the volumes that he brought back. Yes, I'm sure it was. Foundation's Edge. It was the first. It's the fourth novel in the Foundation series, and this was published in 1982 by Doubleday and Company. This one's kind of interesting. It's called The Alternate Asimovs, and that's exactly what it is. This was published in 1986 by Doubleday and Company, and it has the sort of the original version of the Empire novel Pebble in the Sky. It was called Grow Old Along with Me, and then also the original version of The End of Eternity, and then some other sort of novellas, Belief. It's got the first version and the published version, and then he's got an introduction of talking about this, but I don't think the Grow Old with Me was actually published. I know there was a serialization of it, but I don't think this version. I think this was the original version it was sent back to him to rewrite. So it was published in here. So, and this is something I you're probably the questions there of will I be continuing the Future History Project, and yes, I will eventually. I will get back to it. I don't know exactly when. That's why I'm not going to give any dates. I kept saying, "Oh, I'm going to start doing it at this time," and it hasn't happened. But I will be going back to it. I've got to reread. I think the one of the Empire novels, the last one, and I think then we'll be moving in and do a video on that, and also to read the original version of Pebble in the Sky and talk about the differences between those two. This was a sort of a as it says, stories in honor of Isaac Asimov, Foundation's Friends. It was edited by Martin H. Greenberg, prefaced by Ray Bradbury, and an afterword by Isaac Asimov. So he was still alive when he had was able to read all this, but it was he was still, because it was 1989. For some reason I thought it was 1992 this came out. But it's got a number of stories set in Isaac Asimov's universe or universes, a lot of them in the Foundation era universe. The one that really stands out for me is Pamela Sargent's Strip Runner, and it's set with Elijah Bailey. Elijah Bailey sort of in the background, but it's set in sort of shortly after the Caves of Steel. There's Robert Silverberg, Edward Wellen, Connie Willis, Harry Turtledove, George Alec Evinger, Mike Resnick, Barry N. Malsberg, Sheila Finch, Frederick Pohl, Paul Anderson, George Zabrowski, Robert Sheckley. We've got Edward D. Hotch. We've got Hal Clement doing a robot story, which didn't really care for too much. We've got Harry Harrison. I think that's the one he brings in the stainless steel rat. Not very good. Orson Scott Card, and an afterword by Janet Asimov, Janet Jepson Asimov. This is actually signed by someone. I can't remember whose signature this is, because I can't read it. I'm not sure. There's a signature there, but I can't remember whose signature it actually is. Okay, now we've got his Nightfall. Well, this is not strictly his. It's Robert Silverberg as sort of expanded Nightfall story into a novel. And also, that's the thing that I'm missing. I realize it here now is the Bicentennial Man that I don't have. And I think there was one other one as well that Robert Silverberg did. So I'm missing a few things, but this is sort of an expansion. This is the British version, Victor Golan's in 1990. First published. Oh, I guess it was 1990 as well. So it was also 1990 in the U.S. Um, and the last, that one's a bit out of order. The last sort of collection that I have of his is the final science fiction collection is Gold. Um, and this, there was a companion volume called Magic, which was the fantasy. This has a number of short stories, and it also has a robot story or two. I'm looking here. I think maybe two or possibly three. But he's also got essays on science fiction and on writing science fiction. So it's the last essays. So combined with robot visions, robot dreams, this essays, the essays in here, and also like if you want to count the magic ones, they are also in the magic volume, which I don't have, which I'd like to get. Now we've got Harless Ellison's I, Robot. It's the script to the novel, to the movie. It's a paperback version, and it's got a colored insert. I remember reading this a long time ago. I don't remember how it was, and that's something that I will be looking at as I go through and finish up eventually. The Future History Project will be this. I also have the trilogy, the later trilogy that was done by the three Bs, Gregory Benford, Greg Bear, and David Brin. I have them in hardcover, but for some reason I don't have here, and I don't know where it is at the moment. Foundation's Fear, is it? Yeah, Foundation's Fear by Gregory Benford. I've got Foundation and Chaos by Greg Bear. They are the other trilogy that was authorized by the by the estate, and I'm putting them on this shelf because they're the best of the sort of shared universe novels. We'll get to the other ones eventually, but these are the best. And they sort of work a little bit before the Foundation trilogy, and they intermingle a little bit as well. And this one was published in 1998, February 1998, Harper Prism. Foundation and Chaos, and then we've got Foundation's Triumph, David Brin, and that was 1999, and there you got they call it the Killer Bees on the back. But yeah, I've got to find the other the other volume. And the last book on this shelf at the moment, I will have to rearrange things once I find the other books, is the BBC Radio's scripts for the Foundation trilogy that was done. This is a cheap print-on-demand book, hardcover, plasticized, cased, squared spine, horrible things. Like, I'll keep saying that all the time. And this was published in 2010. And yeah, it's the scripts. It's the script for the radio series that was done on the BBC for the Foundation trilogy, which was really good. I actually enjoyed it, and again, it'll be something that I will be looking at eventually with the Future History Project as I go through. Anyway, that's the Isaac Asimov. So that's the beginning of the fiction. The next two shelves are Clifford Simak. So until next time, thank you, BookTube.